Internet's reaction to Palworld says far more about us, the gaming community and the gaming industry, than about Palworld itself. The general narrative is that there are all these solid arguments sustaining the criticism against Palworld, and in Palworld's defense there's only the argument that it's a fun game. That narrative is wrong. The arguments against Palworld are not good. Baldur's Gate and Elden Ring were super successful, and there were some controversies about them, but not like Palworld. Palworld's success, coupled with the wave of misguided criticisms, reveals that Palworld is touching on the spirit of our time, the Zeitgeist. That game touches on things that, as a society, we desire and things that we fear. Palworld sits on that borderline between what we don't want the future of games to be and also what we desire. When you first look at it, it looks like a monster, a Frankenstein, a compilation of bad jokes with plagiarism. But when you actually play the game, everything clicks together, and you see that there is a soul in Frankenstein's monster. Games don't exist in a vacuum. The experience of playing a game is shaped not only by the game itself, but also by our needs, our expectations, the hype, the fears, and other things. Palworld is not a perfect game, but it was the right game at the right time. Right now we are living a moment of fear of how generative AI might disrupt the gaming industry, and we are also tired of new games being a copy of old games. The way Palworld looks speaks to our fear that culture in general, not only games but also movies, has become an eternal cycle of copies, remakes, repetitions, a simulacrum, a copy of a copy of a copy that forgot its original. But when we play Palworld, it feels fresh, just in the right way we need. This clash between what we fear and desire is for me so palpable in so many different aspects of the game. Take for instance the most famous controversy, the claim that they used AI to make Palworld and that it's a rip-off of Pokemon. That discussion says little about the game, but it says a lot about us, the gaming community and the industry. On the one hand, we want artists to have their production protected. Intellectual property matters. AI companies use the art available on the internet to train their models, but they don't pay those artists. And even if Pocket Pair, the company that made Palworld, didn't use AI to make the Pulse, it's still not okay to copy the work from others. Clear plagiarism is illegal, and lighter forms of plagiarism might be legal, but they are uninspired and generally considered a poor labor. On the other hand, the companies that own the intellectual properties of these beloved franchises, such as Pokemon, have been extremely lazy and making not only a series of repetitions of the same game, but the new games are worse than the previous iterations. Palworld looks like it's copying from others. Sometimes it looks like borderline illegal plagiarism, and other times it looks like a cheap knockoff from Pokemon. But at the same time, when you actually play Palworld, you see all these animations and interactions you can do with the Pulse that are absent in any Pokemon game. When you first look at the game, it does indeed come across as a cheap aggregation of Pokemon and some other games. But when you play it, it feels fresh, it clicks. Pokemon is not the only franchise that got extremely repetitive and uninspired. Marvel, Star Wars, even Pixar are in the same rut. Intellectual property is important to protect artists and foster creativity, but the companies that own those franchises are the ones with the least amount of creativity and innovation. Palworld is at the same time a copy and different. There are people who say that Palworld is Pokemon plus Fortnite and Elden Ring. Others say that Palworld is Pokemon plus Breath of the Wild and Final Fantasy. And others say that Palworld is Pokemon plus Ark and Rust. And this last group is probably the most correct one, since the developers actually said that Ark and Rust are their main sources of inspiration. It seems that Palworld is Pokemon plus whatever other genre of game you're familiar with. It is impressive how vast is the collection of games that have been compared to Palworld. This just shows that Palworld is not a mere copy of other games. It's not easy to mix different gameplay styles, and Palworld does it well. Not perfect, but really well. So it feels fresh, but that's strange, isn't it? This constant conflict between copy and creation. Another reason why Palworld feels fresh is because it gives the player a lot of freedom. So much freedom that it reaches cases that are borderline immoral. On the one hand, the game allows the player to do things that are depictions of immoral things. On the other hand, Palworld is not a game that revolves around silly immorality like Postal. In Pokemon, you cannot capture people or use Pokemons to work for you. In Palworld, using the pals as workers is one of the foundations of the game. You can even use humans as pals. But through intelligent game design, using people as pals never becomes part of the gameplay loop. So the player has the freedom to do it without making the game into a silly, unethical joke. Pokemon has always been afraid of tapping to the darker corners of its universe. Palworld is tapping into a desire that players have had for so long, especially regarding Pokemon. It's the desire for freedom. We want to ride our pals whenever we want. We want to fight with them, we want to pet them, make them work hard, or take care of them. We want to have meaningful interactions with the pals. This involves, of course, depictions of immoral things, but Palworld does so in order to improve the gameplay and expand the player's agency. By now, most people have already accepted that Pocket Pair didn't use AI, but many still feel that it is bad that they almost copied some Pokemon. I will talk about that, how that feeling is misplaced, but first we have to talk about the AI issue. When the game was released, lots of people started claiming that Pocket Pair used AI to create the pals. I can understand people saying that Palworld is copying Pokemon. I don't agree with it, but I can understand. The claim that Pocket Pair used AI was misguided. Nintendo won't sue Pocket Pair, but in order for Nintendo to sue Pocket Pair, all they would need is for Pocket Pair to make an identical copy of a Pokemon. It doesn't matter for Nintendo whether or not Pocket Pair used AI. If you hate Palworld, there is absolutely no need to claim that they have used AI. Just say they plagiarized Pokemon, that would be enough. I don't know exactly who started the claims that Pocket Pair used AI. What is interesting to me is that people did include AI in the mix of criticism of Palworld. The criticism was misguided, but this shows something. Not about Palworld, but about us. About our fear of AI. Not all forms of AI, but generative AI. Things like ChatGPT and Midjourney. There's a general feeling that generative AI is immoral, so companies that use it are immoral. But why is it immoral? We have to talk about this, because I see a lot of people who are against AI, but they don't know very well the reasons why AI can be bad. There are two main problems with generative AI. One regards the concept of ownership and control that artists have over their work. The other regards the unprecedented volume of images these AI programs can do. Generative AI programs have to be trained. They don't create images out of the blue. This effect you're seeing right now is done with a video generative AI, Kyber. Their program leans towards anime. Which animes were used to train Kyber? Midjourney can only make an image that resembles a Pikachu because it had access to Pikachu's image. The problem is that Midjourney is using the work of artists without paying them. Okay, it does indeed seem unfair to the artists, but why is it immoral? I could hire someone on Fiverr to draw an image of a creature mixing Totoro and Raichu. The artist will have to take a look at Totoro's and Raichu's images. Most likely the artist will check them online, on Google Images probably. But that artist will not pay anyone. Isn't that exactly what Midjourney does? What is the difference? The difference is that the artist is a human being, and ownership only exists within the social realm. What makes us own something? One of the most influential theories of ownership comes from the philosopher John Locke. Locke argued that God made us and nature. Nature is not owned by anyone, it's just there, waiting for humans. Humans own themselves, we own our bodies and our labor. When we work on something, we mix a part of ourselves into that thing. So imagine an empty land, you start working on it. According to Locke, now you are entitled to claim ownership over that land. But this is Rust, so someone comes and ruins your house. There's no morality in Rust. For Locke, without the government, society would be like Rust. A good government is one that guarantees our rights. Locke is not the only philosopher who thought that we, humans, mix ourselves with the world outside of us. Hegel thought that people own not only their bodies, but also their emotions, feelings, and ideas. When a person makes a painting, that person is extending her personality into the world. Self-actualization requires going beyond the mind. We need rules to protect this process of self-actualization, of being able to define your existence in the world. If someone steals your work, they are stealing a part of you. Copyrights are not the only way to protect an artist. Copyleft is also based on the notion that an artist owns what they produce. So they set the limits of how it can be used. I can allow people to use my videos, but the decision is still within my control. What this means is that governments should regulate AI companies. Midjourney cannot simply use other people's work without authorization. However, even if governments start regulating AI companies, it won't solve the second problem, it will only delay it. Midjourney can create images much faster than any human being. It is extremely cheap to use generative AI compared to hiring a person. Midjourney could launch a new project, one where they will hire artists to create images to train their AI model. Nintendo could, for example, use generative AI to create the Pokémons for their next game. The panic regarding Pocket Pair's potential use of AI was misguided, but it reveals our fear of AI, especially the impact it might have on the production of games. The problem is not that Pocket Pair used AI, but that it looks like they could have used it. I work as a teaching assistant at a university in the UK. This means that I mark essays for undergraduate students in a range of courses in the humanities, from microeconomics to philosophy of mind. Many times when I'm grading the essays, I don't know if it was a student who wrote it or if it was ChatGPT. AI is making me lose trust in my students. Generative AI has not reached the level of producing 3D models as good as the ones used in Palworld. But this is the first time I see at a large scale a distrust that the game art was original. If the problem with using generative AI is that they are stealing the work of artists, then if Nintendo uses AI that's trained with their own art, that would be okay, no? But there would still be something wrong, something that we have not been talking about enough, but we have all been feeling it. Even if generative AI companies get regulated, it still doesn't feel okay. But what is the root of that fear? Frankenstein was not the monster, but the name of the scientist in this story. He was completely afraid and disgusted by what he created. He failed to see that there was humanity in the monster. The creature was a reflection of the creator. Perhaps what we fear is that if machines can produce good artwork, then there's nothing special to humans. Or perhaps the fear is that artwork generated by AI is always mediocre, and that the reign of AI will be the reign of mediocre games, movies, and books. We want original things, fresh things. We admire creativity. Perhaps we're not only afraid, but also disgusted by generative AI. Its mediocrity reflects our own mediocrity. It brings awareness of what we are as a society. The problem of the constant production of cheap copies of trash is not present just in the gaming industry, it's everywhere. It has always been. The panic over Pocket Pair's use of AI is the fear of what we might see when, as society, we look ourselves in the mirror. The panic regarding the use of AI was short-lived. However, the most common criticism of Palworld is that it's a cheap copy of other games. I have seen some people saying that they feel guilty for enjoying Palworld. They feel that Palworld will legitimize stealing the art of other people. That is nonsensical. Do you feel bad when you play League of Legends? Because it's very similar to Dota, the original mod from Warcraft. Some people say that Palworld would have been more successful if they had done more original art. That is nonsensical as well. Making the Pals look like Pokemon was a way to catch people's attention. It was smart. Why are we so afraid that we find so many elements of other games in Palworld? Beyond Pokemon, it is clear that Palworld got gameplay mechanics from other games. On the one hand, the game does indeed look like an amalgamation of different games. On the other hand, the game feels fresh. There are tons of people saying that Palworld proves that Nintendo has been lazy. This shows that Palworld is taking courageous steps towards innovating a genre. Because the game got insanely famous, all types of people have been playing it. I have watched many videos and read many reviews of Palworld. The only common name in all reviews is Pokemon. If a person usually plays FPS games, then the person will feel that Palworld is Pokemon plus Fortnite. If the person plays RPGs, then they will say Palworld is Pokemon plus Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, and Final Fantasy. Actman, for instance, in his very good video on Palworld, mentioned he felt a bit of Age of Empires in the game. I really want Palworld to introduce a task system for the Pals, which will make it closer to Rimworld. If Palworld does that, then I would say Palworld is Pokemon plus Genshin Impact and Rimworld. And that is only because those are the games I played. It's amazing how Palworld speaks to players with such distinct backgrounds. The developer said that Ark and Rust were their main inspirations. Most likely their main inspiration was their own game, Craftopia, which looks like Breath of the Wild, but it has lots of crafting and survival mechanics. The main difference between Craftopia and Palworld is the presence of the pulse. It makes combat very interesting. You can change your pole in the middle of the fight, throwing water on the enemy for example, and then changing to a pole with an electric attack will boost his damage. Adding the poles creates a really fun gameplay loop. You hunt poles, get them to fight with you, and work for you in your base. They will collect resources and produce materials, but it takes time. You need some extra resources and have time left, so you go explore. You hunt poles to get more resources and return to the base. The loop is explore, then manage base, then back to exploration. This base building mechanics makes exploration worth it. Some people complain that the crafting takes too long. Of course it has to take long, otherwise there would be no point in creating an automatic system to produce it. Factorio is a base building game. As you progress in the game, crafting takes longer and longer, which makes automation a challenge and a necessity. Making 100 arrows in Palworld takes time, but you can just leave a pole to do the hard work for you. It feels good to create an automated system. It is the quintessential experience of that type of game. By the way, I love how you have access to all items in your base. You don't need to find the box where you have stones, you can just put your stones wherever you want in your base. It doesn't need to be in your inventory. It makes crafting so much better. Palworld is more a colony simulator than a base building game like Factorio. RimWorld is the best colony simulator game. You have a small group of people and you organize their actions in a way that they can build a settlement and thrive. Each person in your settlement is unique. This also happens at a lower scale in Palworld. Poles have their own skills, their own personality traits such as workaholic, and they can get injured, tired, or depressed. They also have different animations which adds a nice touch, like Depressor being depressed in everything he does. In Palworld, poles of the same type are very similar to each other, but there are different poles with different skills, and you can breed new poles where you can try to get poles with specific characteristics. You can put them to work more intensely, which will lead them to get injured and their sanity will drop faster. This simulates a common mechanics in colony simulators to make the speed of the game faster. The only other game I have seen this exploitation of workers is Frostpunk. The poles give a good reason to explore the map. At night there are different poles than during the day, for example. You want to find more poles and also better poles. You also want to find chests and dungeons. Some people said that these chests are like in Fortnite. Many people say that the chest thing is from Breath of the Wild. Personally, I see it as similar to Genshin Impact, which itself was heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild, but Genshin has this small group of bandits too, and it has these dungeon entrances. The building mechanics have been compared to many games too, Valheim, Fortnite, Rust. Picasso famously said that bad artists copy, good artists steal. The idea is that a good artist makes his art his own. You can see the inspiration from other artists, but they do it so well and in their own manner that it becomes new, original, creative. If you look at clips of Palworld, you might think it's a cheap copy of Pokemon, plus whatever other game you used to play. When you actually play the game, you see how fresh it is. Playing Palworld is completely different from playing Pokemon. Game Freak and Nintendo, the companies responsible for Pokemon, have been pushing cheap copies of Pokemon games over and over again. Pokemon gives Nintendo far more money than Zelda. Zelda does bring some money, but above all, it brings legitimacy to Nintendo. The same with Mario. Mario and Zelda make Nintendo's image. They are good games, very good games, but Pokemon is far more famous than Mario and Zelda. It sells much more. So who is making cheap copies? Palworld is fresh, even though it looks like it shouldn't be. I mentioned RimWorld earlier. There is a game going medieval that's basically RimWorld but in 3D. This changes a bit the experience of playing the game, but they are somewhat similar, with RimWorld being better. But if Pokemon is the main inspiration of Palworld, then Palworld managed to do it better than Game Freak and Nintendo. Did PUBG invent the Battle Royale genre? No, it came from Minecraft. League of Legends is the most successful MOBA game, and it was clearly inspired by Dota, the mod from Warcraft. The difference is that Palworld is not firmly established in one single genre. Is it a monster capture game? Is it a base building game? A colony simulator? An adventure game? It's all of these things at once. The Frankenstein monster shouldn't be alive. It's an aggregation of different body parts. How can that become a cohesive whole? But it does. The tragedy in Frankenstein's story is that society and the scientists failed to see that the creature had a soul. I'm not saying that Palworld is the most creative game ever. Most of the games I have mentioned before are more creative than Palworld in their own way. When you look at Palworld, it doesn't seem like it will feel fresh, but it does. It looks mediocre, but it's not. What I like about Palworld, and I believe other people had the same feeling as me, is that it provided a bunch of familiar elements but gave us a lot of freedom. The game is easy to play, in part because we are familiar with the gameplay mechanics in the game. And what we wanted was for some of these mechanics to be blended and to have more freedom in what we can do in the game. In the Pokemon universe, there is a problem that kids have been talking about for ages. If all creatures are Pokemons, then do people eat them? And if Pokemons are so intelligent and we can be friends with them, like Ash with Pikachu, then why do we use them in battles? Pokemon is basically a simulation of cockfight, but with cute creatures. Pokemons never die in battles, they're just defeated. However, the universe does mention the death of Pokemons. In the first game there was Lavender Town. Each town in the game had a theme, which is an element in the game, like fire or water. The theme of Lavender Town is the ghost element. In that town, there is the Pokemon Tower, a graveyard filled with mourning trainers and hundreds of tombstones for Pokemon that have died. The game designers could have gone a bit further into this theme, but they didn't. Players, however, definitely wanted more. There was a famous urban legend about Lavender Town. There was a creepypasta according to which the music in the town would lead players to have headaches and bizarre behavior, leading them to commit suicide. It is the music you are listening to right now. Of course, that was a myth, but it attracted people. It attracted precisely because of that untapped dark layer hidden beneath Pokemon. All that is unsaid in Pokemon comes to the forefront in Palworld. Someone said that Palworld is like playing Pokemon as the Rocket Team. The villains in Pokemon would do experiments with Pokemons. Mewtwo was born from cloning and mixing Pokemon. In Palworld, you can mix Pols. Some of your Pols will be your partners, others will be your slaves. In Pokemon, you can't capture another trainer. But what if we could? Well, Palworld allows that. And they become your Pol. You can put them to work. You can even butcher them. However, humans are the worst Pol possible. They are pretty bad at combat and they have horrible productivity as workers in the base. The game is aware that capturing humans is a depiction of a serious form of violence. The game allows you to do it, but it does not incorporate effectively into the gameplay loop, so it becomes just an odd thing that you do only once. There is no point in going out capturing people. When you attack an NPC, the police is summoned and they attack you. The game is still in early access, which means that most likely they will make that wanted system better. Since you don't get a proper reward for doing it and you get punished, a player will rarely do it. Palworld is not a game about doing immoral things. Yes, you do use Pols as workers, but that is what we do in literally all colony simulators. In RimWorld, for example, you can capture a person, not in a Pol sphere, but actually beating the person and putting them in a room. And then you can convert that person into a habitant of your settlement. Palworld allows you to treat your Pols badly, making them work more. First, this is not a horrible thing, because it's displayed in a very ludic manner. It makes a lot of difference, for example, if a game shows blood or not. Killing a monster that agonizes with blood is a depiction of serious violence. Killing a monster that dies in a cute way is a ludic depiction of violence. You might be against both, but that doesn't mean they're the same thing. It only means you're an annoying person, a moral saint who can't see the nuances in human behavior. When you put Pols to work at a higher level, or if you don't give a bat to them, this will lead them to get injured and insane. Pols have a sanity meter. You even need to cook good food for them. If there was no injury and insanity, then everyone would leave their Pols working at high intensity, which is very similar to playing Going Medieval at the fastest speed. Adding sanity and injuries to that high intensity work makes the gameplay richer. Frostpunk has a similar gameplay mechanic. You can put your workers to work longer, but that leads to injuries and discontent. Frostpunk has a well-developed narrative, which is a criticism of authoritarian governments. Palworld doesn't have a well-developed narrative. Frostpunk is a better game, it's more philosophical and more original, but Palworld is also a good game and also very original in its own way. Palworld isn't perfect, but it's a very good game. Palworld is conscious of which depictions of immorality would ruin the experience of the game, and which ones improve the gameplay experience. Palworld gives the player a lot of agency without making the game a pure joke like Postal. Postal is a game that is just a satire. Palworld is not just a satire. Postal, like Hatred, is a game that wants to be considered immoral. I wouldn't say it's immoral to play Postal, but the creators of the game were aiming to make a game that's labeled as immoral. Playing Postal feels like doing a virtual simulation of something that is clearly bad. There's no nuance. Butchering a human is, of course, a depiction of something immoral, but Palworld does not revolve around that. Palworld does revolve around making pawns work for you, but Pokemon revolves around cockfights with cute monsters. Palworld gives a lot of freedom to the player, which includes actions that are simulations of immoral things, but the game never goes full on immoral stuff. There's nuance. Playing Palworld does not feel like doing a virtual simulation of a horrible thing, like Postal or Manhunt, or even GTA. Palworld brings that dark layer present in Pokemon to the surface, allowing a series of gross things to be depicted, but only fully incorporating those that are not abominable and actually enrich the gameplay experience. And again, this is something that speaks to our society as a whole, beyond the universe of games. Remember when Deadpool and Logan were released? They introduced more violence into the superhero movie genre. One in a more comical way, and the other in a more serious way. Of course, we don't like discourses that promote violence or very immoral things, but it's undeniable that we have a taste for violence. Pokemon always had a dark layer, but it never embraced it. I like Pokemon, but I don't like to play games made for toddlers. I'm not saying Palworld is a mature artwork. Deadpool is like a movie made for teenagers, but when it was released, it felt fresh. Logan embraced a more mature form of showing Wolverine, and it was awesome. I want more games and movies like that. Squid Games was super successful in part because of that contrast between kids games and violence. There is an unspoken layer of violence present in kids games, and Squid Games tapped on that mix of desire and fear. I have never seen a game raising so many debates about so many different things. Palworld is being accused of plagiarizing and being uninspired, and at the same time being praised for being fresh and original. The AI panic, which was misguided, shows our fears regarding the impact of generative AI on games, movies, and culture at large. Palworld gives a lot of freedom, but is not centered on silly, unethical jokes. That game is a Frankenstein. It's not perfect, far from it, but we as a society projected a series of problems onto that game, and this speaks volumes not about the game, but about us and the gaming industry as a whole.